thermal fluid sciences experts. This is ProReady Engineer.
Hello, this is Bassam Abdelnabi from ProReady Engineer. I'm excited to share a new video series featuring industry cases. If you like what you see, please consider liking and subscribing. Take care and talk to you soon.
In high-stakes aerospace engineering, time is everything. A delay can create a ripple effect across a multi-billion-dollar project. So today, we're going to break down how one facility found a critical bottleneck, got rid of it, and unlocked some absolutely huge gains along the way. Let's get into it.
So here's the problem, plain and simple. 2 whole weeks. Before a single test could even start on a new engine program, this facility was losing 10 working days. Just gone. All spent on hardware assembly inside the test cell. We're talking connecting fuel lines, mounting instruments, getting the engine ready, you get the picture. This was a costly, painful delay that was happening over and over again, just burning through time and money on every single project.
Now, you have to understand, in aerospace, this wasn't just some small inconvenience. This was a major business problem. A single day of a test cell being offline can cost thousands of dollars. These are incredibly high-value assets that need to be running to be useful. So yeah, this 2-week setup was absolutely crippling their schedule.
And that really is the bottom line, isn't it? This delay translated directly into higher costs and blown-out project timelines. So the mission was crystal clear. They had to find a way to slash this setup time, but, and this is key, without ever compromising on quality or safety. The pressure was definitely on.
Okay, so to tackle a problem this big, you kind of have to become a detective. Before they could even think about fixing anything, they needed to know exactly what was going on. Which specific tasks were eating up those 10 days? Where were the inefficiencies hiding? They had to follow the trail.
So what did they do? They took a really methodical approach. The team mapped out the entire assembly process, from the very beginning to the very end. Every single step was documented, it was timed, and it was assigned a cost. They basically created this super detailed flowchart that identified every task, from the most complicated job to the most boring one. This wasn't about guessing, this was about building a rock-solid, data-driven baseline of what was actually happening on the shop floor.
And that analysis, well, it pointed them right to the culprits. And what's really interesting is that the delays weren't coming from one giant failure. Nope, it was a series of small, repetitive, but incredibly time-consuming tasks. Things like assembling the combustor hardware, constantly swapping out control valves for different tests, reconnecting all these complex fuel lines, moving instrumentation like flow meters back and forth, and aligning these giant heavy pressure vessels. These were their top 5 time sinks, the things that were just slowly bleeding the schedule dry.
So once they had the problem clearly mapped out, the path to a solution started to become a whole lot clearer. The analysis didn't just point out what was wrong. It highlighted 5 key areas where a smart, strategic investment could pay off, big time. It was time to switch from diagnosing the problem to taking action, and they were armed with a really targeted, data-driven plan. So let's see what they did.
The key thing here is just how targeted these solutions were. First, they bought a second midframe. Seems simple, but it was a game changer. It meant the next test article could be prepped while the current one was running. Boom, that saved a whopping 2.5 days right there. Second, they installed a dual control valve system, which completely eliminated a full day of swapping valves. Third, a new modular fuel line cart with quick disconnects. That cut another day. Fourth, they installed permanent flow meters, no more moving them around, saving another full day. And finally, some new hydraulic tooling made everything faster and safer, saving half a day. See? Each upgrade was a precision strike against a known time waster.
So after all that, what was the result? Well, this is where the story gets really, really good. These 5 targeted upgrades didn't just make things a little better. They fundamentally transformed the facility's operations and its finances. Okay, first, the big headline number for efficiency. The total setup time was slashed by 55%. That 2-week, 10-day nightmare, it was cut down to just 5 days. That's a full week of testing they got back on every single campaign. In the world of aerospace, that is just massive. And of course, this had a huge impact on the bottom line. All that reclaimed time translated into an immediate savings of around $125,000 a year. And that's just for one test cell. That's real money that could be put back into R&D or new equipment. And the best part? This wasn't a one-time win. It was a recurring return, year after year.
But the true impact, the really mind-blowing number, comes when you look at the long term.
When you factor in inflation and you compound those annual savings over a decade, the cumulative value of these 5 little upgrades is a staggering $1.4 million. What an incredible win. It just shows the power of thinking long-term.
So what's the big lesson in all of this? It's not just about wrenches and valves, right? The real story here is about a shift in thinking. It's about applying what we call systems thinking to turn a nagging operational headache into a real competitive advantage.
And this quote from the case study just nails it. They didn't just fix a few parts, they optimized the entire system. By finding the real bottlenecks, and this is so important, by figuring out the long-term financial return on their investment, they turned what was just a cost of doing business into a genuine edge over the competition.
And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. This kind of approach, it's not just for aerospace test cells. It applies pretty much everywhere. So I'll ask you, what's that recurring bottleneck in your own work that if you could just solve it, could unlock some enormous hidden value over the next decade? It's definitely something worth thinking about.